Welcome to the Science and Spirituality Podcast, where we dive deep into universal spiritual principles and ground them in modern science. My name is Chris Carden.
And my name is Kevin Carden. And we are committed to simplifying the spiritual side of success for you with easy to understand scientific research so you could walk away with practical tools to create radical transformations in your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Science and Spirituality Podcast. This is a special episode because it is the first episode we have a guest. My good friend, my buddy, colleague, just all around extreme awesome person, James Allen. What's up, man? Heard you wrote a book back in like early 1900s, right?
Yeah, it was called As a Man Thinketh. It was a pretty big hit, actually.
Yeah.
I just put that together right now.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's like first action step for people listening. Get that book. It's amazing. It's obviously not by this Allen, but yeah.
It's so cool because it's like the smallest book in the world, but it's so powerful.
Yep.
Like I hear people referring to it all the time. It's funny because I get to hear my name with like these huge, like Bob Proctor's like, and that's James Allen said, I'm just like, damn right.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
Way to go, Bob.
Exactly. Well, yeah. So we brought him on the podcast today. I mean, of course, because he's a good friend of ours, but also he's got this fascinating idea about who you are, and he calls it the self. And so I won't take your thunder, and I want to hear from you because you have a fascinating way of explaining it that I honestly just can't put into words myself the way that you can. So James, what do you, like when we were talking about like what we want to talk about today, you kind of started going into it, but just like, what is the umbrella of it? Where did it start from in your life? And then, like, how is it, would it even apply to someone listening?
Well, I mean, it obviously applies to every single person because it's just like Mary kind of touched on it because Kevin and I have the same mentor, Mary Morrissey. I guess Chris too, you're pretty much, your mentor is also Mary. Mm-hmm. So Mary's been a huge kind of like how we all met.
True.
And she would always say like, yeah, and this is yourself with a capital S. And I just like, that always stuck with me when I was learning from her. And I want to just kind of take it further. So I'm writing a book right now called Unlocking Yourself, and self is in bold. It's in all caps. And I just really started playing with that idea of yourself, and it really just couldn't leave me alone, which is right there, a clear-cut sign that that's myself speaking through me. And that what yourself is it's the real you that wants to live through you. And Kevin, like I've heard you, I listen to the podcast, you guys talk about like longing, discontent, different things like that. And it's all these different signals, like your intuition is yourself speaking through you in all these different ways, basically. So I just really love that, and it makes sense to me, and I like things to be as simple as possible because that's just the way that I roll. So yeah, self is something that I really, really want to have more people be able to really be in touch with. So I teach self leadership so that people can be able to lead themselves. Like I don't want to be the coach or the mentor where like I need to have people around, it's like I want to like get through to where you are like this independent individual that leads by whatever yourself is. And the cool thing I love about it is that it's so individual because like yourself is different than myself, and same with you, Chris. Like we all have our own thing that lights us up. And one of my favorite quotes is by Howard Thurman, where he says, don't do what you think the world needs, do what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more people who come alive. And the big part that I like to highlight is do what makes you come alive, because that's what your self is. A way that I like to think about it is like, why does sex feel so good? Like the moment of climax is the moment that feels the best, and it's the moment that we are most susceptible to having a kid, so that we like keep our species going. You see what I mean? And there's a reason that music feels so good to some people. And there's a reason that like writing feels so good to some people. And some people are like, I don't want to write, or dancing, or a certain kind of career path, or whatever it is. Those things feel good to you because that's yourself speaking through you. And that's what you need to lean into more to have a wonderful life. And I could literally talk all day about it, but that's pretty much what the idea is behind it.
Yeah. And your experience as a life coach and working with clients, what do you think is the biggest barrier to people, really listening to themselves? Because I know me and Kevin can speak a lot about this too, about the barriers that were in our life before we made, really radical changes and started listening more to ourself with the capital S. So, what's like the biggest barrier you see in people's lives in today's day and age?
I would say like there's a couple barriers, but like Gandhi said that the voice for truth is as loud as our willingness to listen. And I feel that a lot of people aren't willing to listen. Like there was a short time in my life where I was single and I was dating people, and I met this one woman who I was super into. You know, we both did CrossFit. We're both like on paper, we looked so good. And I was like, this is just going to happen. It's going to work out. And then all of a sudden she just fell off the face of the earth. And what I realized is I was just outside under the stars, the moon's all bright, you know, and I'm thinking just like talking to God, basically like, dude, like why? You know, I was totally, but I was just like, I know I'm being a victim right now, but come on, like why? You know, because she was like the one girl that I went on a date with, I was really feeling it with, and like just really had this connection with that I felt. And then she ended up like seeing someone else and all this other stuff, and I felt heartbroken. And one thing that I realized in that moment when I was kind of talking to the stars was like, I haven't been willing to listen to my intuition and kind of listen to myself, you know? So I said, you know what, from here on out, like I'm willing to listen. And I instantly just heard a voice that was like, just go to bed. And then I went to bed and I just kind of carried on with my day, you know, and then everything worked out. Now I'm seeing someone new who it's been phenomenal for real this time, you know, and actually, but
yeah.
I think a big challenge that people have is that they're not really willing to listen. And a lot of people are kind of like ignorant to the fact of like that you need to be able to listen. You have to be willing to listen to it. And people need to study that more, because that was like when I first started working with Mary, that was the biggest thing that stood out for me, was like listening to my intuition. I remember the first time I went through the Dream Builder program, like I was stuck on that topic of intuition. So I started playing with it, and now it's like, it's amazing to be able to listen to that. People call your intuition or God speaking through you or whatever it is. But so yeah, that's a big challenge, is like people's willingness to actually listen to it and actually being able to just hear what that voice is saying and listen to the nudges. Because when I teach self-leadership, it's like self-leadership is people who are really, really successful are extremely self-aware. So we have to first be self-aware. Like that's part of listening to your thoughts, listening to the nudges that we get. That's being self-aware. And the next part is you have to be completely honest with yourself. That's the next part. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to be totally honest with themselves. That like they listen to their intuition, like, I want to lose weight because whatever their reason is, I want to spend more time with my family or just look better and feel better. But they're not willing to actually tell themselves like, I'm fat, you know? So it's being self-aware, and on top of that, being completely honest with yourself. And I feel like a lot of people like just don't want to be uncomfortable like that. That's a big challenge, because I work with people and I have to like drill in their head. Like I got certified as a CrossFit coach, and something that they said in our level 1 certification was intensity is what gets results. And that's why CrossFit is really effective, is because it's freaking intense. It's hard. And I was thinking about, I was like, wow, that's really cool, because that applies to like coaching and everything else that I do. And intensity for whatever, and it's like with the workouts too, everybody has their own level of intensity. So if you want to look at people in the eyes because you want to be more confident, but you're terrified of looking at people in the eyes and you can't look at them, you keep looking away, then it's intense for you to look at people in the eyes. But you know that on the other side, that it's going to get you that confidence that you want, so you can look and feel more confident. But you have that intensity of like actually looking at them and you're like, oh, I can't do that. And then you kind of shy away from it. You know what I mean?
It makes so much sense, but I have a question to follow up on all of that. Well, sorry to interrupt. Good. I think the connection was like coming in and out for a second. It seemed like you stopped. But follow up on that, because like what you're saying all makes sense. And I'm sure that someone listening to this probably has had that awareness before. It's like, okay, yes, it's going to take dedication and commitment. And the word you were using is intensity, to change your life, to become more self-aware, to have that hard look at yourself. But then the question comes up to me, and honestly, like I have a somewhat of an answer that I can come up with, but I'm curious to know your guys' input on this, of what do you do to get to that level of intensity? Like it is obviously like a lot like being willing to be uncomfortable, but like, do you all have any like strategies or like simple ways to just put yourself in the fire, so to speak? Or is it a matter of just doing it? Like, yeah. Is there like a strategy?
It's a great question, a great thing to think about, because obviously we're here because of the audience. We want to add value to the audience. And it's like, honestly, you have to get out to, like, how do you get out of a comfort zone? You do the thing that's uncomfortable, and you have to just do it And that's why I say like confidence is built through courage, because you get more confident when you get outside of that comfort zone. And when you're like, I like to explain like courage as you being terrified of heights and you at the top of a rock. And let's like my mom, for example, is like this. You're terrified of heights, but you know that you're going to jump off it because it's going to make you feel more alive. You're going to feel more accomplished, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the moment of courage is where you just take the step. But like, I can't do your push-ups for you. You know,
True.
You have to jump off the rock and actually take the step and do the uncomfortable thing. And that's where the intensity part comes in. You see what I mean? So to answer your question, like, you have to put yourself in the uncomfortable position. And it also ties into, like, I was listening to you guys' last podcast with like limiting beliefs. And it was phenomenal what you guys were talking about, how like we grow up and we get programmed basically with like different beliefs and things like that. And one thing that I was thinking about was beliefs are really ingrained by validation. You know, because if you tell yourself like you lied your whole life, like I used to growing up, I would lie all the time. And if you like say I'm an honest person because you genuinely want to be, because you know the benefits of being an honest person with integrity and all that, and then you try and say that, and like Chris said something where like your subconscious speaks through your body, and I thought that was so cool, because it's as soon as you tell yourself I do not lie, I am an honest person, and you've been lying your whole life, you have all this validation as to why you're a liar. And then you want to be honest and you tell yourself that, and then there's this huge shock inside your body that basically says like bullshit. You know what I mean? So you have to validate as to why you are honest. And the way that we do that is through our actions. So actions are what cause validation. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Because then your brain says, like, if you say like I'm doing the best I can to be an honest person, and you're actually taking actions to genuinely be an honest person, then your brain is like, okay, you're right, you know, because there's all this proof basically to make it real. And that's what changes those patterns over time. So it's the harsh truth, like it's action on your part. And that's where self-leadership comes through.
Yeah. And I want to highlight something you just said. It was like a couple minutes before everything you just shared, but like it was at the beginning after I asked that question that really stood out to me. That is like for me, it was like a light bulb, was that like you said, like you can't do like your clients push-ups for them as a CrossFit coach. Like they have to do the work. So it just hit me like, geez, I mean, it's so straightforward, but how often do we really realize this, that yes, listening to a podcast like this is great. Yes, having a life coach is great. Yes, going through a program is great. But the ultimate thing is that you're doing the work internally when those situations arise. Like you said, like the way to grow is getting uncomfortable, getting outside of your comfort zone. The only way to get there is just doing it. And just doing it means having this kind of conversation, like everything we're talking about, having it in your head, like telling yourself, like reminding yourself. That's why it's powerful to have a coach go through a program, listen to a podcast like this. But ultimately it comes down to you actually thinking these thoughts and realizing, okay, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable now, but this is good. Like having those conversations with yourself inside.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, self-awareness comes in really good play.
Yeah. And that's self-leadership right there.
Yeah.
Is being able to have that conversation and be your own coach, basically.
Yeah.
A lot of people just can't do that. And that's where we come in and do what we do. Teach people how to do this for themselves.
Yes.
I would love, like, my goal is to have like 1 million to 2 million people, you know, even 1 million people. I would be so happy that genuinely can honestly lead themselves like that in this way, you know, like, really, like I'm independent. I got this, you know, and it's forever going to need to work on it. But like, even what you're talking about with like the being uncomfortable, a lot of people are afraid of that. One of the great quotes that I've heard from Mary that really sticks out for this is successful people are willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth. You know, and it's so true, but you have to be uncomfortable. And that's where that intensity aspect comes in.
Yeah. That's honestly one of my favorite quotes by Mary.
So good.
Yeah.
It's in the interest of growth. You have to know that there's growth on the other side, and it's everything's with intention too. The action that you're taking, there's a reason that you're doing it. It's not just randomly jumping off the rock or whatever, or being honest or anything like that. There has to be intention behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I love what we're talking about here, because I think the general gist of what I'm getting is taking 100% responsibility for your own actions and for your own success.
Yep.
And you can have all of the coaches helping you, and you can have all of the trainers and everything. You can have everything going for you, but if you're not taking the action steps yourself, you're never going to be able to see any radical changes in your life. And even if you do, they're not going to be long lasting, because you have to realize that you're changing your lifestyle up.
I think I see that as a big issue with a lot of people with diet. Just what they eat and also what they consume. Like people will believe that they can read one book one time and it'll change their life, or they can eat for like a week and, you know, lose like 5 pounds and they'll be like, oh, like these 5 pounds are going to stay off forever. But you have to realize that it's about changing your lifestyle and becoming a new person and ingraining different habits in your life that are going to help you move forward, but also sustain it. Like you literally have to become a different person. And to just touch on, James, what you mentioned before about like your body too, when you take action steps, like it's literally changing the cellular structure of your body, because now it's not just in your mind anymore. It's not just your brain thinking about it and your brain changing. Your body's actually changing to look like that future you, because you're taking action steps, you're moving energy. And I just want to like highlight a point too. You guys are talking about like life coaches and stuff and how, you know, you want to have people be personal leaders and you can't do the work for them. It's very similar with me as an acupuncturist. Like I just started treating patients last week, and I was telling my patients how important it is that I can treat you once a week, but what you do from now until the next time I see you, that's the real work.
Yeah.
Like that's where you're going to have to change your habits, and that's where you're going to have to work with me. I can help put your body in alignment, and I can help, you know, rearrange some things inside of your body and help you feel better. But the ultimate goal from all that is so that you can take different actions in your life and you can become a different person and you can implement better habits so that, you know, the change could be sustainable.
Absolutely.
Bro, what you just said, I just realized is why I got out of pharmacy. Because I was going to go into an industry that was just treating symptoms, and the people receiving the medications weren't trying to actually change their life. They just wanted a Band-Aid over the problem, which would never cause a true change. But what you're doing is causing true change.
Well, I think that's like a recurring issue in our society that I like to talk about is just, I feel like we become this quick fix society.
Yeah.
And I think people are always looking for that pill or that one diet or this one exercise program or this one book to be able to change their life. And they want it to happen very fast. And they want it to be a one-hit thing. Like I do this once and I can just set it and forget it. But that's not how life works. And that's not how it works when you have to realize that you have to be aware of what's happening. And when you're aware of what's happening, you have to continually make those decisions to be that person that's in alignment with who you want to be in the future. And it's a constant, I don't want to say struggle, because it's not a struggle. Like once you realize this, it becomes fun, but it's a lifestyle. It's not a one-hit thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like fitness. I mean, what I love about fitness is it's so tangible and you can see your results with your body. You know, like you can't do push-ups for you. The push-ups are what actually going to get you the results. And you can't just sit there and like think about it. You know, you have to actually put in the energy and the work into it. When you're talking about, well, when I do my presentations, I have a little slide that people kind of get touchy around. And I think it's just because they realize it's true personally. But I ask questions in the beginning, like who wants to make more money, who wants to have deeper, more passionate relationships, all those different things that are pretty much obvious. Like, yeah, I would love to have that. And then the last question is, who would love to be in complete control of their life? And people raise their hands. And I say, I'm going to give you the first step to being in complete control of your life. And it's to realize that you already are. So I have everyone say out loud, I am in complete control of my life. And a lot of people, like, they won't say it because they don't believe it. They come up with some kind of reason as to why, but it goes back to what you're talking about. Like once they work with you and then after that, they're on their own, but they're in control of the food that they put in their mouth, the quality, the amount. They're in charge of the thoughts that they think. They are in control of the actions that they take, the words that they say, whatever it is. Everybody's in complete control of their life. But we've been like programmed and kind of domesticated or brainwashed, however you want to say it, to be a certain way to kind of fit in with society rather than living by our true self and what we would really want. And that's why I teach that self-leadership aspect and confidence and stuff like that, because it's you just being confident with exactly who you are, because that's what I had so many struggles with growing up.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I can echo that too. I had a lot of issues with that growing up as well. And if you just look at all the people that you look up to that are extremely successful in this world, they all had that belief that they can make an impact on the world around them. Like it wasn't like things just weren't set in stone. I think I have it here in my room. It was one of my favorite Steve Jobs quotes. He's talking about how like once you realize that the world around you was created by people that aren't any smarter than you,
you realize that you can like poke it, and when you poke it, like something will come back at you, and you can change the structure of the reality that you're in because you're part of it and you're doing your part to create it. And I think a lot of people, when they surrender that power that they have to take control of, because you have to take full control over yourself, like you were talking about, James, to really change the world. Like you have to start with, you know, the corner of the universe that you're for sure that you can change, which is you. And then once you do that, you become a beacon of hope and a beacon of light for other people, because, you know, they look at you and they're like, holy shit, like if that person can do it, then I can do it too. But it all starts at home. Like I've always said that I think the way that the world's going to change for the better is not like a president. It's not like who's going to be in Congress. It's not like world leaders around the world. It's enough individuals making the conscious choice that they want to become the best versions of themselves. And then eventually, once a bunch of people do that, it'll reach a critical mass where our entire consciousness will believe that that's the way to live.
And to never give up.
Yeah.
Imagine a world like that where everybody lived like that. Just like authentically them. And like knew that they were in complete control of their life like that.
Yeah.
I believe that's possible.
We'd be out of work, but it'd be badass.
Yeah. One of the things that breaks my heart the most that I see, and this used to happen to me and I still notice myself doing this sometimes, where I'll get super excited about something that I'm really passionate about, and it'll be around like my friends, and I'll like have this burst of energy being like, yes, like I fucking love talking about this. And then right after I have that burst of energy, I like shrink back into myself because I'm like, holy shit, like was that too much? And I feel like that happens to so many people because we're not used to seeing a certain level of passion in people. But like now I've come to love that. Like I love when I see, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're like passionate about like tennis or collecting rocks. Like if you talk to me about your passion and I see that you're passionate about it, like I already like you're a friend to me. Like I see you on that level, because I see so many people resign to the, you know, to just the day to day, and they don't go after what they want, and they're afraid to do it. And so I just really like honoring that in people.
Absolutely.
It's dope.
Yeah. No, dude, I think that's like the biggest thing is you got to be self-aware for anyone that's listening, completely self-aware. And you have to be completely honest with yourself. Like, I'm not happy with this circumstance. And then realize that you are in control of whatever that circumstance is to an extent. I mean, there's definitely times where it doesn't really feel like that, but I mean, you are in charge of the environment that you put yourself into, the people you surround yourself with, because there's so many times where like I'll be in like an uncomfortable situation and then I realize this, I'm like, wait a second, I can just end this conversation right now. I can just say something and end this conversation.
Yeah, you're not a tree. Like you can move.
I can get up and I can leave. I can say something. You know, there's all these different options that you have, but people get wrapped up in kind of that fear of like, what if, you know, or whatever it is that holds them back. And that's like the other thing, like talking about what you were mentioning before, Chris, is like coming from your vision. We talk a lot about that with Mary's spoken a lot about that. We talk about with our clients because it's what you have to do. I had to do that because I was in construction work and I wanted to do this coaching and speaking and everything. And I had to transition because I wanted to do all this other stuff. And I was sitting over here doing construction work. So there's a disconnect, and it was me. I had to be that person that was actually doing those things. I had to be getting on stages, doing the phone calls, doing the podcast, whatever it is. And that's what I like to call your 2.0 self. So it's you 2.0. So you get out a sheet of paper and you just write out like James 2.0 or Kevin 2.0 or Chris 2.0. And you just list off the things. And this is after you've like written out and designed kind of an idea of what you would love to do. Then you design who you need to be to make that happen. What is this person doing differently than what I'm doing right now? What are they still doing? Or what do they stop doing and detach from? Or what do they need to do differently? Things like that. And that's where that whole thing about like Michelangelo, when he's carving out the bust of David, he had to cut away everything that wasn't David. That's what he said when people asked him, how did he see David in the marble block? I cut away everything that was not David. And that's what we have to do with ourselves. Because once you have this vision, it's like, that's what I want. That's our David, basically. And then you have to cut away everything that's not that. You have to decide to cut away from people, beliefs, habits, whatever it is, to embody and be that person. You have to do it every day. And that's where like the real work of instilling those new beliefs of what that person is and having them be you right now. That's where it all comes into. And again, like those beliefs are really validated by the actions that we take. Because then your brain's like, I have no excuse to say like, you're not being that, because you're clearly just taking the action and being that person. So it's really powerful stuff. And it comes down to like a huge awareness factor, because the thing is like, once you're aware of it, then you can't really let it go. because now you're like, crap, now I know. And then you're like, I have to do it though. You know, I can't forget. And then if you forget, if you like push it off to the side and forget about it, then you feel like you betrayed yourself almost. You're like, but I knew that I had to do that. You know,
I've noticed since getting involved in this work that the days where I'm like down on myself have gotten shorter and shorter now, to the point where they're not even days anymore. Like it'll last like an hour, or it'll last two, like, because now I'm like, I'm choosing to sit in this feeling right now, and I'm choosing to allow myself to feel this way. And I can blame the circumstances and I can blame whatever I want for as long as possible. But I have enough experience now doing that to realize that that's not changing anything. And so I also think that that's a scary thing for a lot of people though too, taking 100% responsibility, because I think it's easier to just blame outside circumstances for the situation that you're in. It's easier to feel like you're a victim than it is to take the center of control back to yourself and be like, how did I create this? Or even if I didn't create this, I'm in this situation, like this is happening. So how do I like change my mindset so that I can bring the best version of myself to the situation? And I always like to tell people that, you know, you can't necessarily change everything in your life, but you can change, you have 100% dominion over changing how you think about a situation. So that really does change the situation for you, because you're changing the way you think about it, which means you're going to change the way you feel about it, and you're going to take different actions in it and because of it.
I think it was Les Brown who said, like, if you do what's easy, then your life will be hard. And if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. And what makes something hard is like that resistance, that intensity, you know. And that's kind of like, I just did a video on my YouTube channel, which you just type in James Allen if anyone wants to see it. Or you can go on my Instagram and I am the real James Allen, and then there's a link right there where you can watch it.
Cool.
But it was about hard work, about like people's perception of hard work, because like I talk about like Tom Brady, you know, and different sports players, how they got to grind. Like they freaking work so hard and so many hours, and they're showing up like 4 hours before practice even starts, and then doing practice and going all out. And then there's like people like Mark Allen, who started New World Library. And that's the publishing company that released The Power of Now. And he's just like, I think I've told Kevin about this, so you've listened to his like audio, how he's such a lazy dude.
Yeah.
And he makes millions of dollars. And he sleeps in as late as he wants to, and he just like, everything's got to be easy, and he still made it happen. You know, and it like, the thing about hard work is it's like, it's your perception about what makes it hard, because like the juice has to be worth the squeeze. Like me going, when I was in construction work, it felt like I was checking my soul at the door every time I go to work. And I was like, dude, I got to do something different. I just didn't know what it was. And I wanted to do something that lit me up, because like I got certified to skydive. I play in a band. I do all this other stuff that I love that lit me up. And like, that's me being myself, you know, doing those things, because I just feel good when I'm doing them. So I should be doing more of that. And then the construction aspect was like the one thing that was really missing for me. So I realized that I really had to change that. And so I did. I forgot. I kind of just had a brain fart.
It's all good. Well, let's bring this episode in for a closing and a landing with James. What would you say? I mean, we covered probably several different topics, honestly, like that stems from self-leadership, self-awareness, just understanding who you are. What would you, and also several like tactics, like things to do, like one thing that what you shared, James, 5-10 minutes ago about like writing out like who you need to be to achieve your vision, your 2.0 self. Yeah, I love cool. that. And it's so simple. Like you said, like simplicity, it's powerful. Even though it's simple, it's powerful. Like that's a great exercise, and it can change your life. But is there any final note that you want to share? Anything like of a tip or any other like awareness that you, or like teaching that is just like stuck, like still there out of all these topics that like you need to say, or that you believe the listener like needs to hear as a final note?
Well, there's not really anything like that I want to really add, because it's just like, this is like a 30-minute little thing someone's going to listen to, you know. But like the biggest nugget that I could really give you is like listening, like when Kevin talks about like longing and discontent, when you listen to this podcast, and like really work on just really listening to yourself and really being honest with yourself. Like, I need to change this. And then also, if it's really that challenging for you, like getting fit or making some huge career change or something like that, then get a coach, get someone that's going to help you, someone that resonates with you and like you really feel like you can mesh with, and get inspired by. Like that's huge, and it's going to make you thirsty. There's an old saying that says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I would think about that all the time. And then I heard it from this new perspective, is that you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So it's like, then what do? You make him thirsty. So you need a coach that's going to make you thirsty for that thing that you really want. But the biggest thing is, like, you got to just be straight up with yourself and understand that it's going to be uncomfortable making some big change like that, because it's always been uncomfortable for me. And I can tell you, like, I'm so happy all the time. And the more that you work towards this and build up that big spiritual tool belt, because it's like the difference of you having a screwdriver compared to having a drill. Like, they can both get the same thing done. It's just one's going to take a lot more energy than the other. So you're getting these different tools. Also, if you're in this like depressed kind of state, you notice your energy is low, listen to something. Listen to a podcast like this or an audio that's going to help you get out of it, because that's what I do. The other day, actually, no joke, I was in like a really low energy state, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, I can't even really pinpoint it. So I just started like listening to audios, like reading books and things like that, and it brought me out of that. But you have to be consciously aware of what your energy is like on a regular basis all the time. And when it's low, it's like surrounding yourself with people like this. I feel like that's just such a big point that I want to press, and that you just need to make that your norm, honestly, and think about who you're surrounding yourself with and stuff like that. I think that's just so big, just to kind of hit home. And because I don't want to just give you some tactic that you're like, oh, that was cool, and then close the podcast and be like, okay, I'm just going to go or whatever. So yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing that helped me really change my life too.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And where can people find you? Because particularly, like you said, like getting like listening to something that'll help you get out of that funk. Like, obviously we have this podcast that you're the listener, you're listening to right now. Right. But if you resonate with James, like there's something you said, like, yeah, getting a coach, but someone that you can mesh with, I think that's really important. So if you resonate with James and like what he shared, then yeah, where can they find you?
So you can just follow me on Instagram at I am the real James Allen, because James Allen's a very common name. The real James Allen was taken, so I said, all right, I am the real James Allen. I am the real James Allen. There's also, you can check out my website at localleaders.net. And I have a YouTube channel that is James Allen, but I'm thinking about changing the name because it's kind of hard to find me. So that's the easiest way, is to go on my website, and then you can check out the YouTube. All my stuff is on the website, really. So that's probably the best way to do it. And to also get in touch with me is through the website. So localleaders.net. Okay. And then also on Instagram, there's a little link that'll lead you to the website too.
Awesome. So yeah, and we'll put those links in the description of this episode so that it's easy for someone to just click into.
Totally. Sweet. People like it easy.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chris, anything final on your end for this episode?
James, we really enjoyed talking to you. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. And I got some really awesome gold nuggets from hearing you. It's cool because we all talk about a lot of the same stuff, but when someone says something in a specific way that you've never heard before, it sticks. So I'm really glad that we were able to have this conversation, and yeah, really appreciate it.
I had a great time. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. And I love listening to your podcast too. I gave it 5 stars because I had a good time.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. All right, everyone. We'll talk soon.
That's it for today. So thanks for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. So any questions, any comments, just connect with us on Instagram. You could always DM us at Kevin Francis Carton
and at Chris J. Carton. And also, if you feel guided to, the one thing we do ask is for you to please rate the podcast and leave us a review. This way we can reach more people and impact more lives with this amazing information. With that, we'll see you on the next episode.